Hi, I'm Ranmai Churi. I'm an application engineer at Twitter, and I've been in the cybersecurity industry for roughly 5 years.
And I'm Shamle Naidu. I'm a global managing partner in IBM Security. I'm also the former global CISO for IBM. I've been working in technology for 37 years, of which 22 have been in cybersecurity. Today, Murunmai and I are going to be comparing our experiences as women in cybersecurity. So with that, Murunmai, why don't I just turn it over to you to go ahead and let's have this conversation.
All right, thanks, Shamla. So we have something in common. We both immigrated to the US to pursue cybersecurity as a career. What were your reasons for doing this, and what challenges did you have to overcome?
So, I had two major reasons. The first is that I immigrated from South Africa, and I did this, and, politically it was the right time because as a country we had achieved democracy. I had cast my first vote. And I had a strong portfolio of technical skills and 15 years of work experience. So the time for me was right because I was making room for someone else in a country where unemployment at the time was around 25%. And, I knew that I had a good portfolio of skills that could actually go find employment and work elsewhere successfully. What was interesting for me is the second reason that I wanted to do this was to baseline my skills and my experience against the developed world. Up until then, South Africa had major sanctions, and the movement of people and skills across countries was not that easy. So for me, it was a way to go test out my skills against, the world that was pretty advanced, and to figure out what did I need to learn to fill in the gap. Where was I short? Where was I, on average with others, etc. So those were the two major reasons that I immigrated. At the time, my goal was never to remain permanently. My goal was to come out, do this work for 3 years, and then go back. And of course, my career just took off from there. And so we find ourselves here today.
Interesting. My reasons were pretty different. I had just graduated back in India, and I had uh, I had joined networks and networking security, and that kind of got me interested in what security is, and I wanted to learn what more is there to security. Back then, about 8 years ago, there was not a lot of stuff happening in security back in India, especially for women in security, and I wanted to see how what advanced skills can I learn, and that's how I ended up doing a master's and coming to the US.
So, Miramai, did you have strong female mentors or role models that helped to inspire you or help to guide your career choices?
So I come from a family which has always had like strong women who did and are doing extremely well in their chosen fields. I've always had that encouragement back home to study further, increase my knowledge and exposure. So one of the most strongest female you could say mentor was at my previous workplace. She is also a woman in cybersecurity who's been working for a good number of years. So I'm pretty lucky that my first job in the US had a female mentor, and she guided me with her own experience and helped me get to where I am today in the field of security.
Oh, fantastic. That is so encouraging because I'll tell you that when I started, I didn't have strong female mentors or role models in cybersecurity. It wasn't even a field we talked about. However, I did have role models that helped to create the baseline for me of my technology skills. For example, my female mentor was one of the best female mentors I have ever had and probably could ever have. She was just a strong role model. She was a professional in her field. And she was, both professionally successful, but she also taught me skills that I needed, not just to do the operational job that, she had to teach me, but she taught me about how to be kind and thoughtful to my coworkers. She taught me about things that were, outside of technology, how to do my hair and select my clothes, for example. And, up to this day, she's still one of my top role models. She's taught me how to deal with, a serious health condition with grace and with just dignity. And so I think it's so important to have role models. Today, people like you find yourself in this very fortunate position where you don't have to look that hard or that far for role models, especially in cybersecurity. There are many really strong women who can actually play that role for you. So, I encourage all people like you to seek out those role models, seek out those mentors, and help to develop yourself to be the best version that you can be. Thank you for sharing that.
So, what academic mentorship and internship programs were available to up and coming women cyber professionals when you were first starting out?
What's interesting is, as I said earlier, cybersecurity at the time when I started, this is 37 years ago, was not even a topic we discussed as a separate field or a separate profession. And if you were given a job in technology, the objective was to create an outcome, a business outcome, or a deliverable in the best way possible. And so really, there was not a special topic or a special conversation on this topic. So there were no programs that would help us to expand in the area. Everything was just lumped together as technology roles, or you had audit roles and control roles. But even then, control roles didn't include cybersecurity. So I would say, again, this generation of females and males even coming through cybersecurity have way more in the way of support and programs to help you to further your career, but also to research and expand your portfolio in terms of experiences.
Interesting. So when I was doing my master's in cybersecurity at NYU, there were a lot of options, lot of things. There were hackathons such as Hack NYU. There was Cybersecurity Awareness Week where all teams competed in CTFs. There was even a cybersecurity career fair exclusively just for cybersecurity students. There were also hack nights where students taught each other new things or even demonstrated what things they had learned. Uh, so we had a lot of industrial professors back at NYU. And all of this great stuff was at our disposal. We could just go there and absorb everything and use everything that was there. Um, so, did you or someone you know encounter discriminatory attitudes towards women in the workplace? And what was it challenging to work your way up through as an industry largely populated by men?
So I would say two things. One is I didn't personally feel discrimination. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I think that at the time when I joined the technology field, 37 years ago, there weren't many women in the field. In fact, I could count on the fingers of one hand the number of women that I encountered in security at the time, or even in technology at the time. In fact, the men welcomed me. And frankly, the list of men who were willing to help me, to support me to be successful is just really long. Now, the second part that I will say is that, yes, it was challenging to progress up the career ladder simply because there were just so many people. And, but there's no discrimination in that. I think it was just a matter of competition. The competition was harder and much more broad, but I didn't personally feel discriminated against. Now, I will tell you that, one of my managers from 30 years ago was a male, and he was just one of my best mentors, guides, teachers, etc. He encouraged me in ways that were unusual at the time. In fact, he embraced my mistakes. He taught me how to own mistakes. He taught me how to recover from it. He taught me how to learn from these mistakes. And, I remember so clearly one big lesson that he taught me, which was, these are computers, he said. we can fix it. No matter what happens, we can fix it. And, that for me, I thought was the beginnings of me recognizing that in the field of technology, there was a lot of help, and this was science. And, things could be fixed. If it broke, it could be fixed. And I think, again, if I didn't learn that from a male leader, I probably would not have learned that. So I am very, very grateful for the men who have helped me to be successful along that journey when there weren't many women. There weren't any women, in fact, in my area of influence at the time.
Yeah, uh, that's amazing. This makes me realize how important mentors are as like for inspiring you. Very, very important. Especially in the early phase of your career. I've always had like a really amazing mentors. And as you said, like I've had male mentors who have been really good. In fact, my mentor here at Twitter, he has been really, really good. I'm learning a lot from him. So my experiences have been pretty similar. There may have been some times where there are people who might become a bit aggressive considering you're a woman in security and just starting out. But I don't think I have experienced a lot of that. The other allies or everyone else just become are such a huge part of it that you kind of ignore the little one or two things.
What's interesting about what you just said is that, this is not just about discrimination. I actually think that this topic is about being inclusive. There is so many lessons that we can learn, both from men and women. Often those lessons will be different because people just come from different places. They come from different backgrounds. They come from different, environments. And I think that's why we bring such different perspectives to discussions. When you combine different experiences and those different perspectives, you create much richer outcomes that are way more informed and way more inclusive. And I think this is why, having a diverse workforce is so valuable to companies, because we each bring different strengths. We also bring different weaknesses, and we can prop each other up by having that kind of inclusive work environment.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
And what else I think too is, as we look for mentors and role models, and as we look for sponsors, we have to be very deliberate and very intentional about going after a very diverse set of mentors and role models, for example. Because, I think they each play different roles. Mentors are people who get to know us personally and get to know us really well. Role models are those who's, will help us. They will be our examples and people that we aspire to be like. And having a good set of both males and females in both of those roles help us to become better versions of ourselves. But we also learn from those experiences how to relate better to people who are different. And I think that's what makes, us way more effective, and will actually help to build for us a better path toward the future of inclusivity.
How do you feel that the cyber industry as a whole could improve at being more inclusive to women and minorities?
That's a very deep question. And again, I'm going to share my personal perspective, right? I don't think it's enough for this field to say we welcome women. I think women need a slightly different outreach. I think that the field needs to do more in the way of show and tell. And, very often I find women I speak to, they self-select out of this field very early on in their career. And I think the path for women needs to make the cybersecurity mission much more tangible. And, we have to show women that what we do in this field makes the world a better place. For example, when I think about this, if you're an oncologist knows what they're going to be doing every day. And yes, the science will change for the oncologist. but the mission of saving lives will remain. And creating healthy bodies, saving lives, those are things that an oncologist knows that they're going to do every day. If you're a teacher, for example, you know that, the technology will change and help you to teach students online during a pandemic, for example. But the mission remains, which is to educate communities. It's clear and it's sustainable. And so I feel like in cyber, that mission is a little bit less tangible. And so we need to make that more clear. We need to help women to connect the dots to what our mission is and how that mission actually makes the world a better place, what kind of outcomes we are going to create. If we don't do that, I think that it becomes a little bit challenging, because what we do in cyber every day seems like a really big secret. And so we have to make it clear. And I feel like the best way to do that is to do show and tell, to have more role models who go out and talk about what they do, to show what outcomes we create.
I agree with your point about having like role models go out and talk about it, because I see a lot of organizations actually doing that right now. Twitter, for examples, takes all of this really seriously. We release our inclusion and diversity report. So right now, women make up about 42.5% of the workforce, and we want to make it 50% by 2025. So something in the field of security that I think would make it great is women in security, or people who've been in the industry for a really long time, talking about it, talking about their experiences, maybe writing a book. Anything would be really inspiring, especially to someone who's starting out, and also people who are on the fence about cybersecurity. Sometimes people have this as a minor subject, which they might ignore, but then if they see role models or people in the field of security talking about it, especially women talking about it and talking about their positive experiences, it will serve as a great inspiration for them. That is what I feel would be a good thing to do.
Let me ask you one follow-up question to that. Do you feel like there's still some fear in this profession, like people who are on the outside of cyber? Do they think that we sit around hacking computers all day?
Yes, that is what I get from a lot of people. Like, oh, are you a hacker? Because the term hacker is like so commonly used right now, and it's used it with a negative connotation to it. So that's what everyone feels. And sometimes people are also scared. They don't know what this field is, or they don't have a lot of resources which explain what we actually do. So I feel like there is also this whole mystery type of thing, clouded in mystery, and oh, what is there in the field of security? Are you a hacker? What do you do actually? So coming back to your point about women role models talking about it, that would be one thing which would really help with this.
Yeah, and I feel like that's so many lost opportunities by people who think that all we do is sit in a dark room and hack computers. Because if there's any field in the world right now that is all encompassing, it's this one. Because in cybersecurity, you can do everything from being a communication specialist to being a developer to being a technical analyst and even being a hacker. You can be an executive, you can be a program manager, you can do, every role that exists in any business that can be done in cybersecurity, because we are a freestanding, fully functional profession. And so I feel like those people who take that narrower view of what cybersecurity is are losing out on many, many career opportunities. So we need to get the word out there that there are many more roles in this field than just hackers.
I completely agree with that.
So let me ask you this then. What do you see as your ultimate career goal, both in cybersecurity as well as beyond? How do you think about, your future career path?
So, uh, hearing about your experiences, uh, you have this has been my honor actually talking to you. So, someone who has been a chief security officer, that is, I think, the ultimate goal for a lot of people, and seeing more women chief security officers, especially to someone who's just starting out their career, is like super inspiring. And that is a career path that I would like to follow. I know I would need to learn a lot of things, maybe business strategy, strategic skills, improve communication, network with a lot of people. So that is one thing that I want my career part to go to. And the other thing is a lot of how we talked about mentors. So I want to become someone who could mentor a new person who is just starting, or a woman who is just starting out in the field of cybersecurity. Uh, like how you talked about your mentor back 30 years ago. I want to be that person someone talks about me that way, that I really inspired them and really helped them get to where they are today. So that's also one thing I really, really aspire to be.
So let me help to connect you with both really wonderful, successful, accomplished women CISOs, because there are many, both in very large companies and small companies, but they're all just doing an outstanding job. So let me help you connect you with some of those. The other thing is I have a lot of mentees. Let me connect you with some of those as well, because I think someone like you with your story and your journey can actually help them to see where this could go and, give them some guidance at a peer level. So I would love to do that.
Thank you so much. So, what advice would you give to a woman who's just starting out in the field of cybersecurity today?
I would say do it. Don't think too hard about it and don't talk yourself out of it. Do it. There are so many opportunities in this field for professional development. There's also opportunities to accomplish great things for great organizations. So don't hesitate to just do it.
Amazing. Thank you. So this has been really great, really eye-opening. Uh, Great opportunity for me to even learn about all of the things from you. Thank you so much.
It's been wonderful, Murunmai. I think, if I could just add one more piece of advice, not only for you, but for everyone who's listening to this, is to make sure we don't only look for role models and mentors, but that we also look for sponsors. Sponsors are the people who are going to speak for us when we are not in the room. Sponsors are going to be the one that gets you your next role. Sponsors are going to be the one that speaks on your behalf when you're up for that next promotion. So don't miss out that opportunity of identifying who those sponsors can be and make sure they know about your accomplishments so that they can speak for you when you are not in the room. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you. I hope that we can do this again sometime.
Yes, absolutely. And that was really great advice.